That looks mean. The fucking fancy ass on the back tires.
Wonder how the brakes feel.
Ask him when he gets back.
So, welcome back to Useful Entertainment. We finally have an episode of something to bring to you. I'm just sitting here in my Camaro, and the funny thing about this Camaro is it's not the one you guys know. It's a whole new Camaro. New. Brand new. Brand new. Oh wow, look at what did I buy and why? This came up a marketplace, and I always have my marketplace defaulted on Facebook. This way I like to always look at these cars and keep track of what they're selling for and who's selling what. And I've never needed to buy a car when I see them, except this one. This car jumped out for $1,200. And I was like, I have to have that car, but I'm not paying $1,200 for it because that's a lot of money that I don't really have. I got too many other projects, and yeah. So the guy put in his ad that if the car doesn't sell by the end of the month, he's gonna cut it up for scrap and he's gonna part it out. And I'm like, all right, if he's gonna part it out. I offered him $400 for the car, and he says no way. So I'm like, all right. I told him, I got to thinking, if you're gonna cut this thing up and sell like the doors, well, the fenders, radiator support, T-tops, all that stuff, rear hatch. I said, I already have all that in my storage unit. I've had body parts for this car for 12 years that came with another car I bought over a decade ago that I've just been sitting on. So, I'll tell you what, why don't I trade you all those parts you're gonna take off this car, and I'll give you $100 for the scrap you're gonna get on the car when you take the tub to the junkyard. And he thought about it, and he's like, okay, that sounds like a deal. So I brought him 2 doors, a set of ground effects, a fender, a hatch, a set of GTA wheels, and $100. And this is what I came home with. Now, when I first seen the car for sale, I was like, that's perfect. I was looking for something shitty, and when I got there, I was kind of disappointed. The car wasn't as shitty as I thought it was going to be in the appearance department. So, let's see what we got here. So anyway, we went out to go look at the car, me and him. And what happened? We brought parts down, we made a deal, and then we called AAA to come pick this thing up because, well, I put a license plate on it that belongs to a Camaro. And what happened?
Motherfucker didn't show up.
Yeah, AAA didn't show up. They didn't. How many hours were we there where they didn't show up before they finally called us back to say, sorry, we can't do that today?
At least 2.
At least 2.
We got there about noon.
It was a long time.
Got there about noon. Went and got gas and shit. Came back. Then they called us.
So anyway, they
2:30.
Yeah, well, that was like 4:30. They called us and said that we couldn't pick the car up today. And
No, because I had to get back before, like,
all right. So anyway, we went out to look at this car. I made a deal, and I called AAA. And a couple hours later, they called me back and says they can't pick the car up today because it's too busy because of the holiday season. I don't ever heard that before. They're lucky the car was parked at somebody's house and wasn't stuck on the side of the highway, because then we would have had it out with them. So went home, went back a week later and got the car towed home. The funny thing is, I got AAA, which gives me 100 miles free towing anywhere I want to go. And after that, it's like $5 a mile. So if you remember my black Camaro that I bought exactly 4 years, almost to the day of buying this, I bought the black one the last week of December. Haha. I bought the black Camaro the last week of December of 2018. And I bought this car the last week of December of 2022. Now, what's funny is the Camaro was 98 miles to the east of where I live. And I fell under that 100-mile mark by 2 miles. Now, this one was 107 miles to the west of where I had it backwards. The other one was west, this one was east. This one was out in Allentown, 107 miles the opposite direction. So I had to pay $35 in towing charges, which that's not bad. For what? Over 100 miles of towing, it cost me 35 bucks.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna look over the car real quick and explain what it is I plan to do to this thing, because it's perfectly ruined. And by the way, that hood is not staying on the car. That came off of my buddy Kyle's blue Camaro. We have a fiberglass cowl hood for this one. Got no motor or tranny in it, if you couldn't tell already by how high it's sitting. It's just a rolling shell. Let's do it once around real quick. No spoiler. This thing is cheap. Custom bodywork. It looks like it came from a Walmart pole. But the door still opens and closes fine. Look at that. You don't even have to slam it. The car has got some cancer going on. It's all floor pan rot from T-tops leaking all its life. But the structure of the car and the framework and everything underneath is all fine. So it's got water damage, but it's not a road salt victim by any means. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. This is about the worst of the body rot that the car has on body panels. It's really clean. The bottoms of the doors, where they all rot out, clean. Lower fenders. I wasn't sure what I was going to walk into when I went to look at the car. I'm happy with what I found. Even under the hood, it's all right. Look at this door. Oh, here, look at this quarter. That quarter, somebody's doing burnouts. That quarter's pretty clean. And the doors don't sag on this car, neither the passenger or driver. Look at that. Oop. Now here's where the car does have issues. It's got a little bit of rot right there. That's about the worst spot that I could find, is all this area right here. And back here where the rear seats would go. But torque boxes, frame rails, where the axle is held into the car, everything, that's all solid. So what's the plan with this thing?
Slap it together.
I shouldn't have bought another car. I don't need any other cars. I had no desire to buy another car. And then I saw this.
That's why it's here.
Right. And then I saw this and I just had to have it. I don't know what came over me. It was like an instant moment. I was like, I'm taking that home and I don't care what it takes. I'm bringing that car home. So the only reason that all this went through my head at once is because I immediately figured out how I could pull this together. And I bought it for nothing, pretty much. And I have everything to make it run and drive. So at this point, you guys might be wondering what I ever did with that Olds 350 and 2-speed that came out of my Cutlass that runs really well. It's a dumbass idea, ain't it? We're gonna throw the 68 350 in here out of the Cutlass with the 2-speed. I'm not gonna change a thing. I'm not gonna touch the distributor because I know it's timed perfectly. I'm gonna put the same carb back on that came off. My buddy Mike asked me if I was gonna do a cam swap. I said, no, I'm not touching a bolt on this thing. I'm just putting it exactly in this car how it was in the other car because it ran so well. One of the biggest problems they have with these cars, these 3rd gen Camaros, is when you want to put like a Pontiac motor in it or an Olds motor or Buick, exhaust is really hard to plumb on these cars because it's so compact under the hood. The manifolds bang into the firewall and nobody makes a set of headers that would fit this car for a BOP engine. So my infinite wisdom of trying to put this car together with stuff I already have, well, I have a couple sets of exhaust manifolds at home that are shaped differently. I've got some off a Cutlass, one off a full size that are shaped different. front wheel drive ones from a Tornado that neck out and go out. So what I'm gonna do is just turn them upside down, and take a hole saw right here and whoop, right up through the hood. I think about yay high out the hood on both sides. Thank God we have antique tags in this state, because this thing would not pass inspection. About the floor rot. Yeah, it's got rot, and you're gonna ask me in the comments, I know somebody's gonna ask, what do you plan on doing about all that floor pan rot? What are you gonna do with the floor? Are you gonna patch it? How are you gonna patch it? And my answer, how I'm gonna patch it is, pour 15. I'm not fixing that shit. I'm not plating anything, riveting anything, Bondo. Welding. I'm not, yeah, Bondo. I'm not doing anything. I'm just gonna scrape the rust off, pour 15 it. And unfortunately, I was trying to do this car for almost next to nothing, but I have to get UMI subframe connectors, and they're like 400 bucks. But since the frame is so healthy in this thing, by boxing it all together with the frame connectors, it'll stay together and it'll never have an issue with the holes in the floor. I just have to make sure the seats aren't gonna fall to the floor, and if that's gonna be a case, we'll use like flat iron and bolt the seats to the flat iron.
Tell about the one thing we've so far run into that we're no longer gonna have a problem with.
What's that?
That swing arm.
Oh yeah, if you guys know third gens, you know what I'm talking about. It has a torque arm that runs from the back axle up to the transmission to keep the rear end from rotating. This car never came with the transmission I'm putting it in, so I can't bolt that to the transmission. So we're gonna have to fab up some kind of plate.
You can either get a plate, like remake B&M's plate that adapts it to a turbo 350 that'll bolt onto the 2-speed, which I'm not even sure it's the same bolt pattern, or you could spend $400 on a UMI swing arm with a cross member that completely eliminates all that.
And I'm not spending another $400 on a UMI product. I need the connectors, that's it. But B&M used to make up an adapter kit like he was talking about, and they haven't made that shit for like 15 years at least. So, is that? Me and Chris were talking about what kind of clearance issues we're gonna have, because the Olds motor is a wider spread with the shock towers in this car. And I was looking up cars on third gen pages where people did put Olds motors in, and I was looking at the massive amounts of clearance you actually do have. This hood is a lot heavier than it looks. But it's not bolted on. I just threw it on. I didn't have a hood to put on the car, and I don't want rain getting in here and destroying all the wiring and all that. But this is what we got. There's your K-frame, your sway bar, your steering linkages and all that. The battery tray is rusty, but it's not rotted through. And my black car, I have a piece of sheet metal just thrown in there so the battery doesn't fall out of the car. There's a little bit of rot right there where the AC box would have went on the firewall. There we go. We have technology.
It's the parking brake. The truck.
So it's actually a non-AC car. I was telling you how stripped out the car is, or was I? No, I wasn't. I didn't get that far yet. That's the most rot I found under here, and I'm not worried about it. Everything else is really clean.
See that swing arm?
Yeah.
Also, it's just gonna sit in a pocket somewhere.
So here's the weird part about the car. Yeah, motor mounts a shot. Here's something weird about the car, is it is so stripped down. It should by rights be an Iron Duke car or a V6 car. And I was hoping it was gonna be a V6 car, because V6s come with a 342 rear end in it, and the 8-cylinder cars come with like a 308 or some shit like that. I was hoping for the V6 rear, but this car was an 8-cylinder. What we found is the only 3 options I can find on this car, period, is it came with a V8, a rally pack gauge cluster, and T-tops. That is it. It doesn't even have a rear window defroster. It's got no spoiler, no tilt wheel, no AC, crank windows, no intermittent wipers, cruise control, none of that shit. All I ordered was the V8 and a rally pack, because normally that tachometer would be a massive gas gauge rather than having a small gauge right there. So I have a feeling.
What about the power steering?
Does it have power steering?
Yeah.
I think the power steering standard equipment. I don't think these came with manual boxes. So, yeah, look at it. It's leaking.
That or is this hose shot?
So I have a feeling somebody walked into a dealership and said, I got $5. I want the big motor and I want T-tops and a rally pack if I can afford it. It's weird. I was dead set this was going to be a V6 car until Riley looked at the VIN tag on the front of the radiator support. Some Jim Bob put LED headlights in it. I don't know how I feel about them, but I'm willing to give them a try because I have them, they're free, and if they work good, I'll keep them, and if not, I'll just throw halogens in them. So some people are going to ask me, why am I trying to put an Olds motor in this car? And it's a couple reasons. I have it, I've been sitting on it for 4 years, and it's going to sit for 40 more years if I don't do something with it. It's a really good motor. We rebuilt it 12 years ago, and it's only got 8,000 miles on the rebuild. That car ran great. And the Cutlass is, give or take, what, 3,800 pounds? 39 maybe with all the options. And that car moved good. It had no problem getting out of its own way. I could pass people on the road if I had to. It was not underpowered by any means. Now, this car weighs 3,300 pounds from the factory with all the factory stuff. I'm trying to get the car down to at least 3,000 pounds. Ideally, I'd like to get to like 2,800 pounds. But the interior, it's not getting an interior. All it's gonna have is 2 front seats and that dash and the door panels. Everything else is getting gutted. I want to see if there's any structure I can remove out of the interior of the car without it collapsing like a banana, being a T-top car. I mean, it's getting subframe connectors, but they're not magical. They can't do everything. So that's all up in the air at the moment. And when I was first looking at the car, we were actually going to take the whole dash out of the car and just have a steering column. So I thought about it and I said, no, we'll keep the dash. I definitely 100% want a heater core in this thing. I want heat. And more important than anything, more important than gas in the tank, you have to have a stereo in the car. I don't care if you're driving a NASCAR or I'd put a radio in a derby car, dude. Cars without radios and me don't work. So, give me 1 second so I can gather my thoughts here. Now, another answer is why? Why did I buy this pile of garbage when I already have the Cutlass down and I need to get that on the road and everything else? Well, it's a simple answer, really. I can explain it a long way if you like, but my head's in the Cutlass. I have them in the machine shop because the valves are leaking, I noticed. And I'm still having transmission issues where I need to get the proper shift rods for my Muncie because the rods that I have now will work, but they block the speedometer cable hookup. I should be plowing ahead on that car and I'm just not. I'm taking my time with it and doing everything perfectly. And every car I've ever owned in my entire life, I have never owned yet, and I've always wanted a fucking edition. And that's exactly what this car is. This thing will literally be held together with duct tape and zip ties if it has to be. The only thing I'm concerned about on this car doing the correct way is suspension, so I don't break a ball joint and kill somebody, brakes, brake lines, brake hoses, so I don't kill somebody, and tires, so it don't blow out and kill somebody. Suspension, brakes, and tires. I want the car to be safe, but the rest of it can be a rattle box. It's just gonna be fun. And when I saw the car, and within 1/10 of a second, I said to myself, I have to have that car. Everything I just explained to you over the course of this whole video went through my head in 1 second. I got a motor, I got this, I can do that cheap as fuck. I need a clapped out car. Everything I own, I always maintain, keep nice, keep it washed. And this is gonna be quite the opposite. It's just gonna be fun. Riley's over here looking at all the wiring in the car right now, already diagnosing stuff.
There's like wires that like this, follow it, and it runs all the way over here, all the way down here, and goes to this.
And oh, I almost forgot the.
So where's the main shit? The big shit. Starter solenoid. I think one of these is the distributor. Ground.
It's a shame, really, because this thing, my black car is more rotted out than this thing is, except for the floor pans. My floor pans aren't that bad, but body-wise, even the T-bar, these things all rot out. My 86 was rotted out, my 84 is rotted out. This one, there's no rust. It's like Kyle's blue car. They all rot right in here. The car really is, it's a shame. Somebody tore the car up, ripped the console out, and trashed it, but the body's just, you could fix those floor pans the correct way easily and have a really nice car, you know. Put a wing on it, which I'm not going to do, because oddly enough, it looks like a foreign job without the wing. It looks like a Nissan, like a 240SX or an RX-7. And more importantly, what I should have told you when I first started filming this video, I don't name cars. I think that's some hillbilly shit. I don't name my car. She's sexy. I got Bessie out today. Last night, me and Bessie was ripping up the roads. I'm not into that. I don't name cars. But I had to name this car just because of how hillbilly it is and how hillbilly it's going to be. So I didn't really have to think that long, and I came up with the perfect name for the car. It's simply called Red Trash, because it's red, it's trash, and it's notoriously driven by who? White trash. So Red Trash it is. So that's the official introduction to the Red Trash Camaro that I'm going to try and cobble together as fast as I can while it's winter time, because as soon as the summer comes around, spring and all that, I want to get back into the Cutlass and really start pushing on that car. But while I'm not doing anything and it's just laying dormant, I want to just get this done. So this is going to be hopefully one of these cars where I'll be putting consistent updates on as we go. Today is January 1st, and Happy New Year, by the way. So far, this is the nicest day we've had all year. I mean, it is the first day of the year, but it's the nicest. It's like 60 degrees out right now. And last week when we picked the car up, it was what, 4 degrees at Kyle's house out in Perry County. It got down to 4 degrees, and we were driving that Ford truck with no heat. I mean, it has a blower motor, but it was just blowing air, not warm, not even fucking lukewarm air, just air. My toes are frozen. Oh, a little more. So today's what, Sunday, and hopefully on Tuesday we're gonna get 65-degree weather, and hope on that, when that comes around, I'm gonna try and wash the car up real thoroughly. I want to know exactly what I have to work with on this car. I'd like to get it in that door and get the car up in the air for the day and examine exactly what I have to work with under the car, make sure there's no hidden rust that I didn't see and stuff like that. So I'm gonna film all that too. So there you have it. There's the introduction of Project Red Trash. We're gonna call it Red Trash, the HOA wrecker, but that's too much to say. Look, it doesn't even have the black stripe in the taillight like the that's an option, believe it or not, having that stripe painted in there. Just bottom barrel junk. So yeah, if you paid extra money, you could actually get the black stripe in the taillight, which looks way nicer than this, and that's exactly why I'm not gonna paint it, because I don't want the car to look nice. So I want rich pill-popping housewives and Mercedes to sit next to me in traffic and just, what you driving that for? Vote no. Why is he smiling? Vote no on whatever it is he's smiling about. So I don't know how long this video's been so far, but I'm gonna wrap it up. Stick around for updates. I'm gonna be working on this consistently. So on that note, I'll see you guys later. You got anything to say?
You know, Marty, your videos would be a lot better if you didn't smoke all the time.